Donald Trump wanted to ban asylum seekers from applying for asylum if they enter the country through any method other than the port of entry. And a federal judge who had been appointed by Obama had blocked him from doing so. Now, following that federal judge's ruling, here's what Trump had to say.
The Ninth Circuit, we're gonna have to look at that because every case, no matter where it is, they file it practically, for all intents and purposes. They file it in what's called the Ninth Circuit. This was an Obama judge. And I'll tell you what, it's not gonna happen.
So Trump specifically calls him out as an Obama judge. And he does that as a way of referring to these judges who rule against him as partisan judges. And it's something that he did with a previous judge who was a US citizen, born in the United States, but had a Mexican heritage. And so he has a long track record of doing this. Now, interestingly enough, a Supreme Court justice actually weighed in on this, Chief Justice John Roberts. And Supreme Court justices, for the most part, avoid any type of political commentary because they don't want to appear partisan in any way. But John Roberts did speak out about this, and he said the following. What we have is an extraordinary group of dedicated judges doing their level best to do equal right to those appearing before them. That independent judiciary is something we should all be thankful for. So, I mean, it's not like he said anything crazy, right? And I do believe that there are activist judges. That's one of the reasons why the issue of the Supreme Court nominations comes up during presidential campaigns. There are activist judges, plain and simple. But with that said, Trump has tried to roll out policies that are unconstitutional. And he's had his own judges rule against him. In the case of Jim Acosta and how the White House had revoked his press credentials. The judge who had made the decision to give the press credential back to Acosta was a Trump appointee. So can we just say, oh, it's a Trump judge, so we shouldn't take him seriously? No, he made the right decision here. He upheld the First Amendment, freedom of the press.
Yeah, I'm a little torn on this. So then, of course, Trump clapped back at him. So when Roberts says there are no Obama judges or Trump judges or Bush judges, et cetera, I'm not really true. Okay. On the other hand, I like that Roberts is at least continuing the facade of an independent judiciary because those institutions and those ideas are important because we might one day live up to them, and I hope that we live up to them. The reality is the Supreme Court is incredibly partisan, and the conservative judges picked by Republicans almost always rule with conservatives, and the liberal judges picked by Democrats almost always rule with liberals. So actually, that's not entirely true. They often also vote with corporations because they're put in oftentimes by corporate Democrats, and so, the 2000 case was the perfect example where they just, all conservative judges who pretended to care about state rights said, yeah, I don't care about it, I'm just lying, I just want to make Bush president. So this is not, they said this is not precedent. What does that mean, this is not precedent? That means we're cheating and we're just going to make Bush president. And they stopped a recount and hurt our democracy tremendously with that decision. Now, so they are partisan, let's keep it real. And Trump is right about that to some degree. In this case, he picked a terrible case, and he picked it, of course, because he's biased. So if you wanted to make the case that the judges act based on their politics rather than their legal principles, I could show you dozens, maybe hundreds of those cases, right? But Trump just doesn't like that the guy ruled against him. In this case, it was super clear. The Trump administration wanted to just get rid of a law that was passed that's saying you must give asylum to anyone who's in the country that is asking for asylum. You must give them a hearing, not necessarily give them the asylum itself, no matter how they entered. And Trump's like, well, I don't like that. If they entered in a way I don't like, I don't want to give them a hearing. Judge is like, well, that's an interesting opinion, but that's not the law. And the president in our system of government cannot just get rid of a law that Congress passed. That's not how it works. So that's a terrible example of a judge being partisan. That's a super easy case of applying the law. That is not at all partisan.
Right, and I want to emphasize that the judge mentioned the importance of Congress in this whole equation. So if Congress passes a law the president can't just come in and decide, I don't like that law, and go ahead and do away with it, right? So the judge specifically said, Congress would need to make this decision to change the rules for asylum seekers. And again, this is part and parcel of how our government is supposed to work. We're supposed to have checks and balances. We're not supposed to have a dictator in place who gets to do anything and everything he wants.
Yeah, and an independent judiciary could mean a couple of different things. One is independent of politics, which I am greatly skeptical of, to say the least. The other is independent from the other branches, and that really is important, and they have lived up to that under Donald Trump. And so, and his rebuke of the Ninth Circuit is hilarious. He's like, oh, almost all the cases go through there. Of course, all the cases don't go through the Ninth Circuit. Okay, you want to chunk it up to normal Trump hyperbole, fine, right? But yeah, there are more progressive circuits, that's true. There's also a lot more conservative circuits, and conservatives bring cases in those circuits. So should we get rid of those too? No, I like those. Those are really good. Those are the fair ones. But they're not the fair ones. They're the conservative ones. So he equates being pro-Trump with being fair, and any decision against Trump as being unfair. By definition.
It's just like the way he treats the media. So any news outlet that reports anything remotely negative on Trump is fake news, whereas any outlet that reports positively about Trump is great news. That's what you should watch. I mean, he's so transparent about it. It's incredible.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.